good morning, evening, or afternoon, whichever one applies to you at this current point in time. Today we're going to be talking about the M12 rotary tool from Milwaukee and specifically how to drain every last drop you can out of its usage. With the Milwaukee pipeline talking about the fuel version of the rotary tool being released in the last quarter of this year, 2023, most people are going to start steering toward the latest and greatest. However, before you do, if you recently bought one or if you're like me, now I picked mine up about 10 months ago and I have absolutely no regrets with it. I cut, sand, grind, etc. and this thing does exactly what it needs to every single time. With that being said, I'm going to take you over to the bench in a second just to show you some of the accessories that are compatible with it to see whether or not you may need them for yours. Maybe you're getting into wood carving, maybe you need to sand or cut or do whatever. And I love tools like this where they have different heads and different tips that allow you to do more than just what a tool is designed for, right? If you have a saw, all it can do is saw. If you have a hammer, all it can do is hammer. But when you get multi-tools and different kind of bits, it opens up to what you can actually do with a little bit of imagination. And we're back at the bench. Now, really quick before we start explaining what all this can do, we want to make sure that we understand the price difference to see whether or not this is something that's viable for you. So first, the Milwaukee Rotary, the standard brush one, this one is $99 currently. As of making this video, September 2023, if you check out the Home Depot website, not only do you get this for $100 bare tool, they are running a promotion where you get a 4 amp hour full-size XC M12 battery, as well as a compact 2.0 amp hour battery, and you get the M12 charger. That is a $200 price right there for free. So instead of paying $300, you would be paying only $100. For a third of the price, you get all of the benefit, and that's something that if you need a rotary tool right now, definitely pick that up, no regrets. But if you happen to be in the market for the latest and greatest, once the fuel version of this rotary tool is released, that one will be probably $200. It might come with a battery and a charger. Otherwise, the bare tool might be $130. So if you're already in the M12 lineup and you'd rather just have a better tool, you could go for the fuel version. Otherwise, they might run promotions where they're trying to get rid of these, and so they'll end up giving you a lot more things. Sometimes, especially during Black Friday or Christmas or New Year events, they might actually give you this and it might come with a free tool, or this may come as a free tool with another Milwaukee tool. So keep an eye out for that and shop smarter. Now with the prices out of the way, let's start with what this thing can do. This thing at 5,000 to 32,000 RPMs, depending on what setting you're on. Again, it goes from 1 to 6, with 6 being 32,000. And you got your on and off switch, super simple, but what can you do with it? First and foremost, this is pretty much what I considered the first purchase that I ever picked up, was the Dremel cutoff discs. Now these things are super clean, super cool, and I definitely needed these to clean up some screws that were too long through the other side of a project that I was doing, and I needed to get rid of the excess. Once that's done being cut off, I definitely needed something to sand off, make everything nice and flush, and for that I was able to pick up the sanding stones and see if I can grab that, zoom in. The sanding stones as well as the sanding bands. Now if you're not sure or you didn't know, the rotary tool itself does come with a few things. So it'll come with 5 of these Milwaukee cutoff wheels, very nice, as well as the mandrel to secure them. Focus, please. Please. So it does come with the mandrel that holds the blades in, or the wheels in, and it comes with the wrench to tighten down the 1/8 inch collet. And then the other side of the tiny wrench is to open up the flathead side in there to release that screw and then put your bit in, or your wheel. Now Milwaukee stuff is cool and that's fine and good, but the reason I like the Dremel is because it has that quick release and easy lock. There's a spring in here, you simply pull down on it with one hand, you just pull up away from these 2 securing knobs here, and you twist your bit off. It's that simple. Now it's even easier to put on. All you would do is grab your mandrel. You would line up the little Batman looking ears. I guess it looks like the Batman signal, but you would just line it up the way the bit is held, squeeze them down, and then twist. Whoop. Hard to do this through the viewfinder. You just push in and twist, and it locks into place. Now you want that to be a nice secure connection because this thing's going to go thousands of RPMs and you do not want that flying toward you or anybody else. So with your collet present inside, you want to make sure that you have your fastener in, and then you're going to grab your bit. In a second, I'm going to show you how this thing cuts. We're going to get some screws into a piece of wood and show you how this thing cuts through them like butter. You're just going to press the detent button here just to make sure that the assembly holds in place, and you're going to tighten this down. You can use your wrench, but you could just be strong. That works too. Just make sure that this thing is nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. And I would not recommend having this thing sit all the way down. You want to give it a little bit of space in case it is binded up. You want enough to be able to release it comfortably. All right, let's go. Quick side note, I am going to be using a 3.0 battery just because I love having a battery that can stand the tool. Whether it's a drill, impact, multi-tool, I like tools that stand this thing. You know, even if I tap it pretty hard, it's not going to go anywhere. A little bit of wobble, but it's pretty solid. So we've got an almost new cutoff wheel, fully charged 3.0 battery. Where's that indicator? That's full. I'm going to crank it up to max. Now I did want to use screws that were already pretty stripped out because I don't like to waste. And also I did put them in at different heights if that makes a difference. But let's see. Like butter. And that wheel is still plenty fine. Woo! That's hot. Now maybe for whatever reason you're more in the automotive field, something you're going to come across if you're working on cars, especially if you're replacing those CV axles, you're going to see these pinch crimp connectors or these collars that pretty much you crimp them and then you have to cut them off. If for whatever reason you can't get a pair of diagonal cutters up around that CV axle, you could sneak in a wheel. And make quick work of it. Now while I wipe this up, sometimes, like I said, you're going to be able to get into those spots. Sometimes you aren't, and for that reason, you are going to need something that is delicate, that is lightweight, and more than anything, is something that is comfortable. You're going to be working on that thing for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. You want something. Sometimes just holding the vibration from this, it's going to fatigue your hands, and I've heard from industry workers that long-term issues develop with their nerves. So it's better to give yourself a break. So this is my warning to you. If you feel like you're fatigued or your hands hurting or anything like that, give yourself a break. So let's say this size just isn't doing it for you. You could always upgrade to a flex shaft. Interestingly enough, Dremel stuff may sometimes fit your M12, and this is one of them. Just so we're clear, the part number on here is the 225-02. That is the Dremel flex shaft. Now the reason I want this is because sometimes you're going to need that precision. You're going to want something to use as a pen, and this does it. All you have to do is remember to first take off the collet, and remember It's going to have an extra little piece in there. You're going to take out the collet. You're going to take off the outer collar on your M12. You are then simply going to go into the package because it's going to come with a nut that's going to hold the square-shaped drive that is in that shaft. Now be careful because they have a package that has instruction books in it and you really have to go in there and touch and feel it. But it's in there. Do not throw these away until you have that little adapter in there. Otherwise, this shaft is completely useless. Sound good? Stay with me. Next, we're going to add the adapter to the body of the M12. I know it's a rotary tool. I'm just going to call it the M12 so I don't have to keep saying Dremel, not Dremel, Dremel, not Dremel. You're going to thread that down while holding the detent button until it's nice and snug. And then try to line it up as best as you can. If it doesn't line up right away, you could slightly turn on the machine and just let it line itself up. But that's not the ideal situation. So once it comes on, it's better, don't twist this. It's better to just twist the tool itself until it's comfy because this thing is super touchy. So give it some tension and keep spinning the tool until it threads all the way flush. Once that's good, you're going to then lower it to the lowest setting just in case and look at the collar just to make sure it's synced up. And as you can see, it is spinning. So of course, Dremel does send a collar for it, or a collet, I should say. However, you can put the one from the Milwaukee and it will work perfectly fine. Just thread that down and put whatever kind of bit you want. In a second, I'm going to go grab something that has a little bit of surface rust and we're going to show what this sanding band can do. Keep in mind, once you thread it all the way down, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of space and you're going to snug this down. So just to be clear, inside the packaging, Dremel also sends a little wrench as well as a collet. Now as you can see on this metal frame, we got some pretty simple surface rust, and maybe you want to clean your tools up, or maybe you have something that needs to be cleaned up, but it's much easier to get up in between a rack with the flex shaft rather than the other. Now I will say you do need to lay the tool down because most of the vibration is going to be there, and I'm going to talk about mitigating that vibration in a second. But check this out. And as you can see, nice and clean. Do be careful, it might be still a bit hot. Otherwise, you can go ahead and switch these to polishing wheels, and you could always give this a nice good polish. If you wanted to give it a powder coat or paint it, you can do that as well. Very nice. The mandrel for this, as well as the... Back up, dude, calm down, personal space. The mandrel for this, as well as the sanding bands, are both from Ryobi, as well as the replacements. They do come in packs of 10. I go through these a lot because I love them. I'm always cleaning some material up. So you don't have to keep buying the mandrel. You can just buy the bands. Now, as far as rigid tools, as far as Ryobi, Milwaukee, whoever, it doesn't really matter who you like. Tools have vibration. That's the motors running and such. And so this thing, in order for you to, let me just show you. In order for you to comfortably have it, you can't have it standing up, right? If I stand my tool up, which I love my tool standing, if I do this as I'm using the tool, you can see that that tool is dancing in the back. And this is like just maybe a half inch of movement, and this thing's dancing in the background. So it's not that flexible, to be clear. What you need to do is lay your tool down. However, whether your tabletop is wood or metal or any other material, plastic, you want to have something to mitigate some of that vibration. So having these high density foam pads is exactly how you do that. And if you could stack more than one, they absorb the majority of the vibration. So get them in a position where you still have access to your power button as well as your speed dials. And then while you're working, and again, try to put a glue or something to weigh them down, but you are going to be using the tool. You'll see he's nice and calm in the corner. And if I start getting a little more rugged, he's still just barely dancing while laying down. The biggest thing is that while vibrating, right? This is just on speed 1. As you can see, little bit of play. This is a pretty smooth surface, so it's understandable. But the tool itself is not moving. If I was to put this to a higher speed, and then, let me talk with the motor off. If I put this to a higher speed and then stand it up, the tool's going to be dancing, and any kind of movement whatsoever is just going to knock it over. That hurts the body. Smacking over and over, these are plastic. So keep that in mind. If I switch this up to 6, watch what happens. So not only is there excess vibration, which is kind of mediated by the rubber on the bottom of the boot, but the vibration is passing through the table, making more noise. And not only that, the tool is starting to slowly sway. You don't want that to happen. You want your tool nice and comfy. Lay it down somewhere where it's out of the way. You still have access to the different speeds, and you can calmly work without worrying about your tool or the noise, and especially the vibration that's going to be moving up through your body. You want the isolation to be here, and you just want a little bit of vibration just in the very tips of your fingers at most. This keeps you safer, and it allows you to work longer without that fatigue. Now, just because they're for medical purposes does not mean they're not ideal. I love my medical shears because they can cut through plastic, metal, etc. And we're going to be trying the keyless chuck by Dremel that is also compatible with Milwaukee's Rotary tool, because this little baby right here, let me turn on my light, right? This little baby right here has the jaws of a drill, and that is because this is a keyless chuck. So all you would have to do is take off the collet that is on your flex shaft, both pieces off, and it's as simple as threading on that keyless chuck. Now press the button for the tension, and as you start spinning, the jaws will keep coming out to the point where they will be slowly pressing onto the bit you put in. If you look deep in there, which I'm not sure if my camera can pick that up, there are little springs in between the jaws that make sure that if you happen to tighten it down too tight, it'll help you loosen. Sound good? Good. I'm going to grab a piece of wood, and we're going to show you these carbide burrs, because these are tungsten carbide burrs. The first time I used it, the bit just snapped in half. So these are the replacement ones. So Gestuis and Amazon do have great customer service. Otherwise, let's see how the wood carving is for those of you who do woodworking. So after playing around with this for a little while, as you can see, I can totally understand that's just test of me testing. I can fully understand why people decide they like to do, oh, hello. I can fully understand why people like wood carving. It's very creative, it's very relaxing. It's kind of messy, but if you got the right headphones and you don't mind having a little bit of time on a nice, Saturday, Sunday morning, you just shave away some wood for a while and you're left with something really nice. So if you're into wood carving, definitely recommend getting these carbide tips. This is so nice to just have that, because nobody wants to sit there and pretend that this is the same thing as being able to precisely hold this one much more like a pen. And also, there are two areas right at the tip that actually go for your fingers, whether you're holding it like this or you're holding it like that for your thumb and your index finger. Nice and comfy. And the rubberized material on it just makes it that much nicer to hold on to. And the last thing I wanted to show you is the drywall cutout tool from Dremel that does fit your Milwaukee Rotary. The reason is, Milwaukee does make a dedicated cutout tool for drywall. However, it's only about 28,000 RPMs. This thing does 32, as well as being able to cut, sand, polish, and everything else. There's no justification why you would get that one over this one. They're almost the exact same bodies. The only difference is Milwaukee has basically one of these just permanently attached to the top, and it's slower. So same battery, same everything. This seems to be the superior tool, and it also comes with 3 of these drill bits. So I'm going to pop this on just to give you a demonstration of what it looks like. But remember, no cutting anything in your apartment without your landlord's permission. Once it is free, remember that it is plastic, so you're just going to open up the screw. This is your depth gauge. It's just going to let you know how shallow or deep you want to make your cuts. It's for millimeters as well as inch. And once that's free, you're going to put it to the depth that you want it to be cut into, and then you're going to use the thumb screw to hold it there. Now your depth gauge is also where the tool threads onto, so be careful not threading this wrong. You want just enough to where it comes down to the body comfortably. Do not crank on this thing like a gorilla. Again, this is plastic, the threads are plastic, and the body is plastic. Just enough to where it's a nice snug fitting. You don't see any more of the threads at the bottom. Now I didn't put on the collet just to show you, so give me a second. I'm going to throw on the collet and throw in one of the drill bits. So we're going to take our tool, we're going to reinsert our collet, make sure the collet fits in first, nice and flush. I'm going to bring it down. Let's grab one of these drill bits. This is an eeny, meeny, miny situation because it doesn't really matter for the sake of the demonstration. Now this is going to go flush. Try not to have the end of that flute touching the actual collar. Give it a little bit of space. Once you see some of the shaft, that's when you want to tighten it down. Make sure you're also giving that thumb screw some tension, but you don't want that flute to be touching the collar. When that thing starts spinning, if there's any cross threading, you can end up with the bit cutting into the collar head. We don't want that. So once that's good, you're going to bring your add-on down, and it's going to go over everything else. Be very careful when threading this down. Remember, it is plastic. The threads are plastic on both pieces, as well as the bodies themselves are plastic. Plastic threads, plastic tool. Don't break it. You don't need all that strength, just nice and flush. And as you can see, that's the drill bit inside. I like that you're visibly able to see where the bit is, as well as having space for all that dust to come out rather than just building up inside of a closed area. Now for the sake of testing the tool, it is a drill bit, so I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds just to see how stable this is. I'm going to use not the full force, I'll probably use like setting 4, and let's see what it does. So as you can see, I'll just show you the tip of the drill bit. It is kind of hot. It's taking that charring color from the hot wood. This is obviously something you're not going to use for drilling wood. This has vinyl, plastic, and drywall, as well as, they said, some tiles. So keep that in mind. This thing is pretty cool. So that little bit did not like that type of wood, and so there was a lot of smoke. I had to turn on the air conditioner in there, which is why I had to move away. So thank you so much for watching, and everything that you saw in today's video will be in the description. And if you're interested in anything, go for it. Everything here works very well, and it's a way to also save on getting dedicated tools. You don't just need a sander, you don't just need a cutter, you don't just need a polisher. You need something that can do it all, and Rotaries do it. So let me know, is the old-fashioned, I shouldn't say old-fashioned, but is the tried and true M12 for you, or are you going to wait it out and go for the fuel version that's going to be released in Q4 of 2023? It's September, so anywhere from here to December, they're going to expect the release, and we'll see. So until next time, work smart.